Hi, Naomi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Joe, very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Est-ce que vous savez si le clicker fonctionnait?
Je pense que oui, il y a des groupes qui l'ont utilisé. Tu peux faire un test si tu veux.
Moins un groupe qui a eu de la misère.
Ah, bon, sans clicker.
Désirez-vous que j'ai une sélection des conseils en anglais ou en français?
English, please.
Each team has 20 minutes to present its case to the judges. I will show a bar of the 10, 5, last 2 minutes, and last 30 seconds of the presentation. During the last 10 seconds of the speech, I will indicate by means of my two hands the number of remaining seconds. A team not having ended its presentation after 20 minutes will be stopped to move on to the period of question. A period of question of a maximal duration of 5 minutes is assigned to the jury at the end of the presentation. I would like to remind the jury that it is mandatory to ask at least one question during this period. I will invite the judges to introduce themselves and then the team can begin.
Hi, I'm Mary Pierre and I'm a manager at Assumption Life.
Good day and welcome. My name is Pablo Montreuil. I'm president of Sparks Advisory Group.
Donc, les juges, le public, mes coéquipiers et moi, on a tous déjà vécu des événements stressants. Des événements qui nous forcent à sortir de notre zone de confort, des événements qui nous donnent mal au ventre. Je ne vais pas vous cacher que parler devant vous ce matin, c'est un peu stressant. Du bon stress, je vous rassure. On peut aussi penser à quand on fait une activité pour la première fois, par exemple sauter en parachute, ou quand on doit changer d'école, ou quand on commence un nouvel emploi. C'est tous des événements qui, dans le fond, nous forcent à nous adapter et à accepter le changement. Mon équipe et moi, on a la certitude que le changement, c'est positif. En fait, le changement, c'est ce qui va nous permettre de se dépasser, de grandir et de s'épanouir. Donc, dans le fond, aujourd'hui, nous avons basé notre présentation sur le fait que le changement, ça va amener des effets positifs et des bénéfices au long terme, autant chez l'individu que sur l'entreprise. So, Assumption Life. Assumption Life, you are a current leader in your industry. You are a top employer, an employer of choice. Your employees are proud to work for you since you are so involved in your community. You are actually rewarding collaboration, team spirit, commitment, and accountability. You make your employees feel like they are part of a big family. So this is really your core, your culture. So even if you are going to experiment changes, we really think that you should stay true to your culture and to your core. So today we know that you are going to make changes in the next month in your company. We know that you're changing the structure, in your building, the rooms and everything. So we know that those changes can create some insecurities. So with those insecurities, we found 3 potential threats, and we are here today to find the best solution possible with you to address those threats. So the first one is the resistance. The second one is regarding the productivity and the commitment, and the last one is the integration of your future hires. So I will explain the 3 threats in depth, and then we will go. So the first threat is resistance. So resistance from your current employees. So we know that 25% of your current employees will work in offices and 75% will be forced to work in common area. We know that those 75% may not feel happy to not work in offices anymore and to work in common area. So we feel that this can create a division between people working in offices and people working in a common area. So this can create jealousy too. Also, we know that you are keeping your employees, your senior employees in offices and your junior employees in the common area. So we might think that this will create a generation gap between the junior and the senior employees. So this generation gap can probably lead to competition among employees as well as a problem of communication between the employees. The second threat is regarding productivity and commitment with your current employees also. So since this change will create insecurities for your current employees, they might not spend the necessary time to do their usual task, their work task. They might focus too much on politics, hierarchy, or environment more than they should do. So this will decrease their productivity and their commitment in the workplace. So this can be a threat for your future growth. And I know you, Ascension Life wants to grow in the next year, and you have the financial health to grow. So this can be a problem. Finally, the last issue we are going to address today is regarding the integration of your future hires. So I know that you are planning on hire many people for the next few years. So this can be for sure a good thing, but if new hires coming and they feel that there's not a synergy between the current employees, that there's a division between employees, they will not feel welcome in your company, and they will not commit to it. So this might increase the turnover rate and the absenteeism rate of your new employees, which can for sure be a threat for you, and they will probably feel excluded. So that's the three threats that we're addressing today. Jobert will continue with the implementation and the solution.
Perfect. Thank you, Anne. So what Anne has told us here is that there are these threats, right? With change, it is normal to see threats. If we didn't see these threats, I would conclude that the change wasn't significant enough. So basically, they're evident threats, but we want to basically approach them as almost like positive indicators. If you don't see these threats, there are no threats, I wouldn't say that there would be, I would say the change isn't enough, and the change isn't really making a huge impact in the company. So for each solution, we looked at basically turning these threats into opportunities for growth and development, and for the company to learn from these. So the first threat, resistance. We have a solution called Assumption 2.0. Threat B, for productivity and commitment, we have solution B, which is data analytics. And for threat C, integration of new hirees, we have a solution called Human Resource Management 2.0. Okay, so for solution number one, right? So the problem here, or the threat we had here, was basically that people who were in offices before, 75% of them are going to be outside offices now, and 25% will continue to be in those offices. So the company, when it's making these changes in the design, every floor is basically being changed. They're looking for, like, Assumption Life is basically changing the physical look of the company. But even though it's just a physical look, changing any aspect of a company is going to communicate something to the employees. And what we see is the communication being done from the physical changes is that actually the employees will look at that and be like, okay, the way work will be done now is a bit different. The way we communicate is a bit different. Open desks, wide concepts, more technology. The company is changing for sure. They can see that. They can physically see it, and now in their heads they're thinking, okay, there's going to be changes here. So with that, it's important to realize that the approach before was more, the way the company was set up more in terms of the structure and in terms of the physical look of it, was more human relations. And we're moving to more of a high involvement type, which is a huge trend in HR, where companies are now wanting more from their employees. They want their opinions. They want their perspective on the future. So we have this plan of having guaranteed conversations. So we really want to hear what all the employees, all 240, have to say about this change. So our idea here is to bring in an outside industrial psychologist, hire one on a contract basis, to basically come in, have a guaranteed conversation with each of the employees. And in this conversation, the employee is guaranteed confidentiality. They can say what they want, however they want, and they know that whatever they say is not going to be known by the company directly. It's not a direct link. From here, all the people, the industrial psychologist will then consult with the VP of Organizational Development at the company in order to establish a message. So understand all the data they heard from all the conversations and establish a message. And essentially, this message will probably be different for all the different, I guess, all the people, depending on the employee segment. So the 75% of the people who had offices before, who no longer have offices, would basically be told that, okay, yes, you no longer have your office, but at the same time, you might be mad about that. At the same time, we value you as a top performer, as a top player. We realize because you had an office, you must have been a top performer, right? At the same time, the approach of the company now is a high involvement one. So we're gonna have open desks here, right? So for all the new all the young employees, the new ones coming in, all the rest of the employees who never had offices before, want your guidance. They will know that you had an office before and you were a huge part of this company. So being able to be in the same desk, but at the same time be experts with other people will be a huge, important part of your job now. For the 25% who had offices before and still do now, we tell them basically that we recognize that you are seniors and you are super important to the company. That's why we're continuing to give you an office. At the same time, we want you to essentially be leaders for this change. You had an office now and you still do, so people see that. They see that you are almost this core strength that needs to continuously change. And people should feel free to come to you and you should be interacting with everyone else because now you are somewhat the image of the before and after staying the same. For the rest of the employees who maybe didn't have the biggest, I guess, title or biggest role, we're saying that look at all these changes we're making. We're investing in you guys. We're investing in you. We're changing all the facilities. These are expensive costs, but we believe that you guys actually can benefit from them, because we want you guys to benefit from them too. So that's the first solution. Number 2, data analytics. So a huge trend in HR now is the use of data analytics software. And most companies have usually an SAS or they have Oracle or all sorts of HRM software. But there are these add-on softwares you can get. And basically, with the new age of, I guess, IT, companies are thinking, okay, we'll just get these things and we'll just compile all our information into these systems and we'll compute all these answers for us, they'll answer all the questions we have. But the problem with that is that you'll end up just jamming these systems with all the files you have, all the information you have of every employee, every sort of message, and that's too much because you're basically just you're not asking a single question, you're just asking for guidance in an empty space. So our approach would be proactive. Basically, the way to do that is to create a model. So within this software, we create this model tailored to exactly what we want to find. And in this case, it would be productivity and commitment. So we want to look for those as answers. So this model needs to be created to give us those answers. And the measures to do so, we only have 3 examples here, but of course there's many more indicators. So one could be duration of the client staying with this said employee. That would be assigned productivity, the number of clients they have, the amounts of sales they're having with the clients, another example of a measure. Then there's 360 feedback. An amazing piece of tool to basically see the opinions of the people around you, the people above you, the people below you. And that can all go into the system. Looking at sick days as well could be a sign of commitment or lack of commitment. So there are many more, but those are basically, that's to give you an idea of what this model will basically be measured on. But then it's nice to have this model, and it's nice for this really cool software to give us all these cool answers about, okay, yeah, commitment is very high, productivity is super low, whatever. But without actually implementing these things, you'll see no impact. You'll have all these cool answers, like, oh, the software gave me all this and this and this, but I have zero idea what I'm supposed to do with it. That's where it's really important to make sense of this information, and then to consult with the VP of Organizational Development. He must be there with the VP of Technology to really understand this and see how a plan could be created to make sense of this data and also have steps to ensure that this data is being fully used and utilized. And that's solution B. So moving on to solution C. Human resource management. So what Anne said, the threat C was actually that these new employees are coming into this company because the company is looking to grow and to hire new employees. So they're coming into this company, and if the conditions in the company are not super well, if the change isn't being taken well by all the people in the company, it will be pretty evident. You can see a divide between segments. Like human nature basically tells us that you can see politics super easy. You can see who gets along, who doesn't get along, who's talking bad things about the other person. So if it's not a good environment, so if solution A and B did not work right, solution C would leave the system basically unable to, I guess, be consolidated and firm. So we advise here though now, for these new people coming in, if A and B work, there will be changes. And to make these changes, I guess, continuous, would mean that basically you can't hire you can't continuously to hire people the same way you did before. Because before when you were hiring people, you were hiring them on the old way of doing things at Assumption Life. Now when you're hiring people, you're doing it in a new way. You're basically looking for people who match the new type of organization that has been changed to. And they'll add to this organization. So beginning with the selection process, the criteria needs to change. So of course you're still looking for the similar skills, similar backgrounds, perhaps similar educational backgrounds as well. But in terms of, there are still key indicators that you should look for. Innovation being one, people who take risks, people who are, I guess, forward-thinking and creative. And that kind of changed the job design a bit, because the job no longer is you're in your cubicle, you're doing this and this. Now it's a different type of system. So it's like communication, collaboration are keys. Teamwork is a key. And that's important when you're looking to hire new people. They have to match this system. They have to be a really good fit. And if you just use the old way of hiring people, that fit would not match with a new way of doing things. Number two, evaluation. So evaluation should always remain objective. You don't want subjectivity getting in there and manipulating people's compensation. But at the same time, evaluation should also reflect some of the values that the company has. So teamwork being a big one, you have to, we're saying a minor, I guess, input into the employee's compensation that reflects teamwork would be really good. So if every floor, perhaps, has a piece of their compensation that is tied to teamwork, it's not a huge amount, but it's a bit, just to tell them that, okay, it's to my advantage to work with people around me. Even though maybe my tasks from day to day don't require working with the person next to me, it's to my advantage to work and help them out. Maybe if I have a spare 10 minutes, I can go to the person next to me and be like, hey, do you have a problem with anything? Is everything going well? That way, at least, teamwork is being integrated into the company. And another thing I have to mention here is that for change to happen, and to move from a human relation system to a high involvement one, psychological safety is a huge thing. People should feel that when they come into Assumption Life, they're free to basically express any problems they have, any issues they see that is interfering with their work, and they should be free to basically have no judgments on their opinions and their perspective, and to have constructive, I guess, feedback from that. That's a huge thing to have. And another thing is short-term wins. You also want to make sure that when this change process is happening, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be evident to the employees that is changing in the company. And if the employee isn't seeing that, okay, everything's just getting messed up, I don't know where my desk is now, what's happening here, they wouldn't be super happy with change, because it's super in the long term. Change is so far away. But if we can, I guess, make sure that we, I guess, express the fact that there are short-term wins along the way, that there are basically improvements being done, and people are talking about them. The managers are coming down like, yes, despite all this happening, there's this that's happening. This is better than we had before. And that's something really, really important to mention. So in terms of implementation, A, B, and C is divided this way. So we have A, hire psychologists, then we have the guaranteed conversations that last for 3 months, and then the VP of organizational development would create this message with all the information they gathered. And then the data analytics software will be purchased as well. Because all these three solutions can happen almost simultaneously. And then the model creation happens after the purchase of the software, and then measures can be done. So basically data analytics basically tell us that the more information we have, the more, I guess, insights we'll get. So over time, it should get smarter and smarter and smarter. So we can't jump to conclusions right at the beginning because we don't have enough information. The model hasn't eaten what it needs to eat basically. So 3 months will give it some time, and then basically that would basically be implementation. So this should be down there, but implementation of change should be in the end, and that's where you actually make use of all the stuff you have. And the last one, HRM, basically modifications, is what the solution 3 would say, and that's just the selection process and the evaluation system being altered.
Okay, so at this point you're probably wondering, how is it going to cost? How much is this whole beautiful solution is going to cost for your company as a small medium company. So we've analyzed the situation, and we believe that a $75,000 total is going to be the figure that's going to be able to cover all the costs. So first, we've allocated $25,000 to the industrial organization psychologist, and also $50,000 to the data analytics software, which includes all the consulting and as well the development. Sorry. In terms of risk, some people are not aligned with the message. So there's a possibility of some people still resisting the change, even if we make all the communication and we make them feel still very into the company. So what we believe is that the company should use data to really monitor along the way, and also if the costs are actually a big figure for your company, you should still you will be able in the future to see those results. So there's a possibility of overcoming that. Measures of success, so continuously monitor, also walk through the survey and look at other things. Finally, in terms of key takeaways, make...
Presentation is over.
These are the key takeaways right there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You discussed about the teamwork compensation and the 3.5%. So I'm just wondering what type of criteria go into that, and who in the company, like in the hierarchy, would decide whether you would get it or not, or how?
So essentially, we would most likely need more information on how the compensation system works now. But essentially, the way it would be tied to is teamwork would be based on people who work around you. So the measures would somewhat be, so if normally they're busy selling, I guess, insurance policies or something, that could be a measure, and they could basically combine all those for all the people working on the same floor and be like, okay, we reached this target, here's this percent, this percent,
Okay,
this
so
percent.
see
Yeah.
like collectively
See the
targets
collective target,
instead
and that would
of...
just...
Okay.
More applies to Gilbert, because you covered that section, but you talk about crafting the message, having a psychologist, industrial psychologist and all that, but it kind of sounds you already have all the message crafted, which to me, why do we need a psychologist to start?
Because those are still assumptions, right? We're still looking at this from the outside, and to truly understand the situation, we have to get way more information, and we have to really hear what the employees are saying. And although we can come in with assumptions and ideas of how we think everything's working, it's really good to confirm all those assumptions and really see what's actually happening.
Okay, so validation.
Validation.
Okay, now the same train of thought, you talk about having a model, but it was about crafting the questions and the questionnaires and so on. That there was a lot of control around that. Can you explain a bit?
Those are essentially the inputs to the system, right? So the model would be, I guess, if you want to answer performance, right? So you look at things that are actually indicators of performance, right? So you can see, depending on, I guess, the nature of everyone's work, it would be, I guess, sales, it could be the amount of clients they have, how much money they're making, how long they've been, like those are, I guess, issues of performance. Maybe if they're missing work a lot, that takes away from performance. So those are kind of ideas of inputs, right, into the system we'd have.
You had mentioned, still in relation to that, to talk to all 240 employees. I'm just wondering the reason why we're talking to absolutely everyone versus a selective group, or...
Okay, so we didn't know exactly the groups of the employees from our knowledge, but we're assuming that all of them have some sort of importance to the company at this current level. From just we got 240 employees in different floors. So, I mean, everyone's going to see this change. It's happening on all floors. It's happening everywhere. Everyone's going to be. They have the freedom to say their opinion. So essentially, knowing what everyone thinks, although it could be costly, I think gives everyone at least an opportunity to express any sort of problems or any sort of thing, anything that's on their mind, essentially.
Question to Naomi. I'd like to hear you speak a little bit. Can you wrap up your proposition in the 1 minute we have left?
Okay, so basically, looking at the key takeaways, we were talking about change in investment for the future. So we're talking that it's a risk, that it's a big figure, but there's definitely a possibility for the future that you will be able to capitalize on these costs. So basically, not only within your training, so you will train your employees, and they will have the human capital, so that is actually good for your company, and also within the future, you will be able to have a better performance because you will be able to have this united kind of community within your enterprise. And so also being a leading company means to be always ahead in the industry. So you were talking about getting more technology within your company, and also this using the data analytics software, this will enable you to really stay ahead of the game and really be into this data analytics and really this data land. Staying true to your culture and core values, this is the most important for your company. One of those core values is your teamwork, and you need to really put it forward. You need to communicate it. Any type of communication is good, and that's why we really believe that talking to every single employee will make it, it will demonstrate that your company as a whole cares about its employees and care about every single one. Maybe like there's definitely a hierarchy. At the bottom, at the top, you're as important to us as anybody else because you are part of your company, and this is the most important part and the message you need to put forward.
Thank you, Naomi.
Do you have any questions? No, I think
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.